Hi, Renee. Thank you for taking time to talk with me today. I wanted to introduce Renee Ranke to the world. Renee is a medium and has some other spiritual gifts that she's going to share with us today. So, Renee, if you could just start by talking a little bit about what your spiritual awakening journey has been like.
Hi, Stacy. I'm glad to be with you today. My spiritual awakening journey is pretty crazy. um, I it it actually really started on the unexpected passing of my husband, uh, and it was probably about a year after that all of a sudden I started this journey. Now there were some things that happened before that year that um, could have given me some hints as to what was coming. But, like everybody else, I am human. And so, the strange things that happened or those signs that I saw, I just went, yeah, okay, whatever. I was really just, working, going as fast as I could to try and avoid really thinking about anything that was going on. And that's one of the problems with awakening, right? You have to take the time to kind of go inside and let yourself see some things that maybe aren't that easy to see. So it was, yeah, about a year later when I finally started to slow down a little bit. The grief got to a point where um, I could take a minute and kind of breathe a little bit. And that's when everything started happening. And when I say happening, it was happening fast. it was a whirlwind awakening journey that I'm still on. It's a constant path. It's not one of those things where you can point to one day and go, okay, look, I'm awake now. It's a constant journey,
Not a destination.
not a destination. No, no.
So, when you look back, what were some of those early signs that your awakening was starting? And did you recognize those in the moment?
In the moment, not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, there's still times when I go back and look at some of the stuff that's happened, even since I started to realize that things were happening that I didn't understand at the time. So I think that's part of the journey, going back to things and saying, hey, wait, now I understand what this means. Um, I had a couple of signs early on from my husband, little things. At the time, I had a cell phone that was one of the ones that had a little stylus with it. One of the ones that blew up. I can't even remember what it was called. S Notes. It was the Galaxy S Notes. And when Ken had given it to me, at the time he had given it to me, I got, I used to use it for grocery lists. That was about it. And then one day I discovered it could write in color. And I drew this big heart in this hot pink and it said Renee and Ken, or Ken and Renee. I don't remember which way it went. And I was so excited and I showed it to him. Like, look, it writes in color. He was like, yeah, okay, honey. And then that was it, right? That was it. From that point on, it was just grocery lists. And after he passed away, it was still grocery lists. I would use it for, I had one grocery list. When I was done, I would just erase it and start all over again. One day I tossed my phone into the seat next to me, and all of a sudden up pops this heart that says Renee plus Ken on it. And I was like, my automatic instinct, I just swiped it away because I was like, oh my God, it's going to use data. Oh my God, it's going to, didn't even think about it. And then right afterwards, I was like, well, that's kind of strange, but let it go. I had to get a new car because we leased cars and both of the vehicles were in Ken's name. And right after I got my new car, pulled in the driveway, and I always wear glasses when I drive, and I take them off, I throw them in the cup holder, and that's where they go. I pulled into my driveway, I stopped the car, threw my glasses in the cup holder. Boom! The thing on top of the on, on the top of the car that's actually there to hold your glasses pops open. And I just closed it real fast. And then all of a sudden I went, if Ken was sitting here next to me, he would look at me and go, they make a thing to put your glasses in, Renee. And I was like, okay. So from that point on, I always put my glasses in there, but it's still, and it never came open again. That was the one brand new car. First time it never popped open again. But even at that point, it just still didn't, it hit me that, hey, if he was here, this is what he would do. It still didn't quite hit me. And cardinals were around like crazy at the time too. So it's one of those signs that we get from spirit. But it was almost a year later when I kind of got a nudge to Lilydale because I had nothing. I knew nothing about mediums. I really hadn't any experience with 12 years of Catholic school. I was brought up Catholic, which the Catholic religion at the time that I was growing up really kind of frowned on all of this. So nothing really in my background. And one day I just decided out of the blue that I was going to Lilydale. And that was my first experience with a medium. And that's kind of what set me off on this path. It was just such an amazing experience that I decided I had to understand more about what was going on. And that if this medium that I met with was able to speak to my husband, well, you know what? I was going to learn to speak to my husband. And so I got all excited after things started happening. I went, oh, I'm going to talk to dead people. This is great. I'm going to talk to dead people. And that's not really what this awakening journey is about. It's not so much that ability, not that mediumistic side. It's about spirituality and understanding that there's so much more to us than just these bodies, that just these shells that we inhabit, as Spirit likes to call them for me.
So when you had this moment of, if she can do it, I can do it,
Mhm.
and I think I can do this, I want to do this, then what?
Then it was, again, it was funny because my first trip to Lilydale, I got pulled over on the way there. My very first speeding ticket ever in the 50 years I've been alive, because I'm always very careful with the speed. And that was kind of a sign. I looked back afterwards and went, oh, they were trying to tell me I was going to be going way, way, way fast. It was i- just a constant journey to understand. It was, I looked for ways to people who could explain to me. So I did go to a few more mediums, and then one of them actually pointed me in the direction of a lady who became my mentor. So I joined an online mentoring program just to get that group, right? To be with people who kind of understood and get some guidance on what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. So there were a lot of classes, I went back to Lilydale for a lot of classes, and I joined the online mentorship program. And the lady who was my mentor at the time told me that I needed to find a community and try and take some development circles, be physically around people instead of just virtually, because this was all online. And I ended up finding a church out in Oneonta, New York, which is about an hour and a half away from where I live, that was doing development circles. And so I went to development circles, and then I went to classes, and then I actually became a ministerial student. That's how impressed I was with this. It was a metaphysical church, so it was about education and letting people find their way, find their own truth, because that's kind of the most important thing, right? Is discovering who you are and how your beliefs fit into that.
So, when I hear things like you were on your way to Lilydale, you got your first speeding ticket
Yeah.
in your life, and I have the privilege of knowing a little bit more of your backstory, so I can understand where you're coming from on that and why that makes sense to you as being a symbol and a sign. But I can also hear somebody hearing that and saying, maybe getting a speeding ticket was a symbol that you were going above the
That was going too
limit,
fast.
and that's why you got a ticket.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
when you look at these symbols and these signs that have come to mean a lot to you, how do you know when that's a symbol and a sign, and like when to trust that?
That's a really good question, and I'll be 100% honest with you. It's a matter of I just keep thinking of the mustard seeds. I don't know if you have any background with the Catholic religion or the Bible, but there was the parable that Jesus talks about having faith the size of a mustard seed and being able to move mountains. And I think that in this journey, that's one of the really key aspects is if you look at something and you see it, as if I have a cardinal fly up outside this window right now, I'd be like, oh my God, look, Ken's here. If something, you see something or you feel something and you believe there is more meaning to it, then it doesn't really matter if there's a scientific explanation to it or not. It means what you understand it to be is what it is. So yes, me getting pulled over for a speeding ticket has a very logical explanation to it. Until you think about the fact that, like I said, I was 50 years old. I have never had a speeding ticket before or since. I got a parking ticket since, but I haven't got a speeding ticket since. And I was so mad at the guy that pulled me over because I had no idea why he was pulling me over. And he came up to the car and he's like, you were going 60 in a 45. No, I was going 60 in a 50. No, like, well, where was the sign? He's back there. Sure enough, my next time to Lilydale, I saw that sign clear as day. But at that point, I didn't see it. So yeah, there's a lot of things that happen that it is a matter of it. And again, back to my first couple of times, right? And it was swipe it away, forget about it. It's not just because you think that's what Ken would say if he was sitting there, doesn't mean Ken's sitting there next to you. Um, it is. It's a matter of faith. It's a matter of realizing that what you see and what I see and what I get from that is important, right? And what you get from that is important. What you believe is important. What I believe is important. Um, and it's having the faith in that. It's having the faith in that and going, okay, you know what? I'm not a lunatic. I'm really not crazy.
But you're
And
human.
again, watching how that journey unfolded. It unfolded so fast. Now, again, whether it was a warning, slow down a little bit, or whether it was you're going to be going really, 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 really quick. Either way, it was a sign of speed to come, which I didn't know at the time. So at the time, I didn't really think that there was any. I kind of sat there scratching my head going, this has never happened. Why did I get a speeding ticket? How could I possibly have missed this after all the driving I've done in my life? And I've never gotten more. I always go 5 miles an hour over the speed, always. So even on the throughway, I'm terrible.
So the thing is, I know you're human as well, so you must get it wrong
hmm
sometimes. And
Uh-huh.
when you get it wrong, whatever right and wrong really are, uh,
hmm
how do you integrate that in your work and keep moving and trust your gift?
So I went to a class once where the instructor said to me, or said to all of us, everybody in the class, if you're in the mode, if you're connecting with spirit, you are never wrong. You may not voice it in a way that somebody understands correctly, but as long as you're in that connection, you're never really wrong. Now, I'm going to have to throw a little bit of a curveball on that. That translating, that getting a point across to somebody, you can technically be wrong. If I have 7 people standing in the room and I'm getting a message for you, it's possibility that something is bleeding through that actually belongs to somebody else. There's also a possibility that my own crap can get in the way. So that's why it's really important if you're doing this kind of work to try and stay as clear and as healed as you can, because those voices of love and light that we hear that want us to understand, that want to get messages across to their loved ones, or help them get through life. If you're in a dark place, those voices are going to come across in a different way than they're actually meant to. So again, it's important to keep clear yourself. Really, most of the stuff that I've ever questioned, hesitated about, later on down the road either did come to be, or when I looked at it from a different angle, I went, oh, that's what it was meant. Or I ended up being able to clearly see where my own junk got in the way, because sometimes you get something and you run with it, right? You turn it into this great big story and you get like a little carried away. And, that's just another thing that you kind of have to watch out for when you're doing this. Follow the signs and don't kind of invent your own story. Don't come up with this backstory to follow everything.
Yeah, it seems like it would be important also not to get committed to what you think it means and like seeing that through and looking for more signs that you're right rather than just following the
Yeah,
sign.
it's uh, yeah, and that is also very difficult. It's something that, especially because in this world, it's very things tend to be very metaphorical. So if I get a symbol, for example, of a donut, which I do get. Donuts were one of the first symbols I ever got. A donut for me represents something lacking spiritually, right? Something that you eat, and as soon as you're done, you want another one. It didn't really fill you, it didn't satisfy you. And somebody that I'm reading for may actually have a memory or a story associated to a donut, right? So if I see a donut come across, I'm going to be like, Do I translate that or do I just give it to the and I'm lucky because I have worked on the relationship that I have with my team, as I call them. So I have this collective consciousness uh, guide team that's with me, and I have worked on this relationship enough that we have a sign. And that's exactly what it is. I'll ask them, should I sign this? So kind of like an artist signs his portrait, like, should I sign this? And they'll tell me yes or no. And if
Mm.
they say no, then I just transfer it perfectly the way it is and let that person figure out what that sign means. And if they tell me yes, then I know they're giving me a symbol for something that I'm supposed to translate for the person. So, and
Cool.
again, that's not a trick you learn right out of the gate, right? It's
Right.
something that you have to kind of build that relationship with. So,
And you must have to have a certain level of trust with yourself and your gifts to be able to be open to that even.
yes, or stubbornness. I'm not sure which it is.
Could be
The
both.
faith, the mustard seed, right? It's again back to that mustard seed, even with the faith the size of a mustard seed. So if all you've got is faith the size of a mustard seed, you are going to continue to question. Am I crazy? Is this right? Am I going to cause somebody pain? Am I, that's another one of those things. You tell somebody something and you worry. When you throw that empath side in with this kind of work, you're like, oh my God, are they going to react wrong? Am I gonna upset them? Am I gonna um and in some ways that's important, right? Probably in a lot of ways that's important to be able to take people's reactions to things into consideration. But it also makes it difficult when you're just channeling stuff through to be able to go, okay, wait a second, I'm not okay. Wait, I see death. No, death doesn't mean death. Death means rebirth. So it's one of those things that you have to do a dance. You have to
Mm.
do a dance. And yeah, it's not easy. There is a in traditional training, what they will tell you if like if I'm messaging at church, at our church events, if I get something for somebody, I will say to them, may I come to you? So
Mhm.
then I will go to them, I'll give a message. And when we're done, we'll say, may I leave that with you? Now, sometimes I'll say, I'm going to leave that with you when they don't understand something and I'm not getting anything from,
Mhm.
leave it with you. Maybe it'll stew. Uh, the reason behind that, may I leave that with you, is that you don't carry it with you and you don't spend the next 2 weeks running it through your head going, did I do that right? Did I do that right? And yet sometimes you will still have those readings where that happens, where you leave and you're like, oh, I know that was important. Did I get that right? Do I totally understand that? Because sometimes you don't. I had a lady once who I did a reading for, and I saw she started to ask me something, and right away, as she was asking me, I saw an airplane and in these blue. Well, actually, I didn't even see an airplane. What I saw was a blue sky with only light, white, fluffy clouds, and I immediately threw an airplane into there. And I was like, I think you're going to be traveling. I think you're going to be. And she asked me her question, and later that day on my ride home, I was like, it was blue skies. What she was asking me, I was just supposed to give her blue skies to tell her that everything was going to clear up, everything was going to. Here I turned it into this trip, and this travel, and yeah. So yeah, it's having faith in yourself, not letting yourself get in your own way, and then sometimes you just have to understand that you're human and you're not going to always get it right. You're going to have the idea, but sometimes your own stuff will get in the way, and sometimes sometimes you do carry that lady. I ended up going back out to her via email and went, hey, I figured it out, this is right. So if I had actually left it behind, I may not have gotten her the message she needed to get, right? So I did get it to her, it was just a little delayed.
So part of it's also trusting that in those moments, those people are where they're supposed to be and hearing what they are supposed to hear, whether it's what spirit was intending or not.
100%, 100%. And you will see that happen, which is it's really funny. So if you do something like a gallery event, right, where you have a big crowd and you're giving what we call evidence, right? So I'm saying I see an older gentleman who's 70-ish, and it seems like he passed from some kind of stomach issue, and he seems to have a beard and a mustache and white hair, and he's showing me drinking a beer, so he must have been a beer lover. And you got 3 people that answer to it.
Mm.
Maybe it was meant for the first person, but then they stop and then I know the beer doesn't relate. somebody else is like, yeah, that's mine. Well, it might have been the first person's to begin with, but spirit will actually adjust and bring in the right person and bring out the right message. So a lot of times when you're doing this type of stuff, if you're doing it in a group, the messages are meant for a lot of people. It's not so much, it's almost like my collective group of guides, right? It's not so much that, you necessarily needed to hear that. There's a lot of people that needed to hear it. Or if I'm going to you, even though I was supposed to go to, Bob over here, spirit's going to adjust and get you what you need to. And it's kind of a wonderful thing about this is that, yeah, you just got to go, you know what? The right person comes in at the right time. What they need, they're going to get. What they don't need, is not going to happen. So, yeah, and having faith in that process too. Sometimes you walk away going, geez, some of the best readings I've done, I I've walked away going, "Oh my God, that was terrible. What happened? I don't." And it turns out it actually was better. So yeah, that self-doubt thing is a problem. But again, this stuff, it's not just about me reading for you or me reading for other people. This is about you being able to understand that you have that connection, right? So somebody got me to that point. The person who gave me my first reading with Ken got me to the point where I was like, I got to do this for other people. And
Right.
what it does is it triggers that journey for you. So you don't necessarily need to end up going out and doing readings for people and doing it professionally. It's just knowing that you can trust in your instincts, knowing that you're never alone, and knowing that your loved ones have your back, and using that in your everyday life to your own to your own advantage to help you get through this journey that's pretty freaking hard. We signed up for some stuff that's not easy, and we have help, but we just have to realize that the help is there.
Absolutely. Yeah, very cool. So we only have a couple minutes left, but I know that you hold some sort of unique beliefs around things like past lives and souls and energy and how that recycles. So I was wondering if you wanted to tell us a little bit about how you see those things.
I I have a lot of unique things.
Mhm.
I've been very lucky through most of this journey, even though I've done classes and I've gone through a lot of training. The spirit team that I work with has worked with me very closely and taught me many things. And some of the things that they've taught me are things that are not traditional, that are not the normal spiritualist think thoughts or the normal religious thoughts necessarily. And I think the one you're referring to is my understanding about past lives and future lives. And
Yeah.
basically what spirit taught me at one point, I came into this actually expecting there to be past lives, which is kind of strange for a Catholic because Catholics are brought up to believe we're only here once. And I remember long before this started, I remember one day just kind of being upset about something and going, you know what? I haven't done anything with my life, but it's too late now. I'm too tired. Next time I'll get it better. And so I was like, "Oh, where did that come from?" So I did come into this expecting a traditional view of past lives. And that's not really what I have anymore. I have a concept that fits into what we've seen as beliefs in past lives, but what I think they fit into is this journey right now. Because every moment of your life, you're being reborn, right? Any day you can wake up and say, no, this is it. I'm starting on a totally different path. I'm turning around who I am. One point, Spirit told me that past lives were dreams.
Mm.
And that if you go for a past life reading, or if you see, if you're doing a meditation and you see something that looks to you like a past life, it's actually almost like a parable. It's a way of trying to teach you something you need to understand about this life, which is what people use past lives for, right? It's a matter of, oh, why is this happening to me? Well, you know what? In a past life, you did this. A lot of the times, if you look at this, what you're going to think of it, oh, you know what? When I was 14, I did do that. And that was a past life. That is something that happened to me. As far as recycling, and you brought up a really good point that I kind of had to put some thought into the last time we talked about that recycling of energy. What happens? Is it just, every single one of us just kind of floating around out there for forever and ever and ever? And then eventually what's going to happen? The whole universe is going to blow up because there's way too much energy in one place.
Sounds
Um,
scary.
I think that our own kind DNA kind of answers that. I believe that A lot of what we may see as past lives is actually ancestral memory. I think that our ancestors, those people that we have descended from all the way back, are wrapped into who we are. So I think when we pass, we will actually be wrapped with the people that are part of our family or part of our loved ones, and will be, that team that directs you now, that's there to help you on this journey. You become part of that, so you're never actually gone. You may not be the person in charge of the next body, but
Sure.
you're actually, as long as somebody's alert enough and awake enough to hear you, you're going to have some give and take with that, right? And that's kind of, I don't think any one of us is just this unique being. We all have a unique aspect to us, but we're our mother and our father. We're our grandmother and our grandfather. It's that line. So that's kind of what I believe. I went to a past life training out in the Association for Research and Enlightenment out in Virginia Beach. And I took a class. It was like a 4 or 5 day class on past life regression. So in hypnotherapy. So I'm actually trained to regress you to look at past life. Now, the whole time I was in that class, we never had one past life come up. But the guy who was teaching it, um, actually even mentioned that when he first started doing it, he used to get past lives all the time. But as he got better and more efficient at it, he stopped getting past lives, because the point of what we were doing is getting you to go inside and kind of get your own message, get your own connection going. But he actually told a story about, he was doing therapy, and he regressed someone, a lady one time, who gave him this, this past life came through, and it was, the Wild West, and she was a prostitute, and I don't know, somebody came into town and killed her, and there was a whole story to it. And then like 2 weeks later, he had somebody else come in who had that exact same past life. So again, I think there's a couple of concepts. I think as far as past lives go, we have ancestral memories that we can view. We have these parables, we have these dreams, we have these thought forms that spirit can send us, so that we'll learn what it is we need to learn, and it may not even be associated with anything. And I think there's probably some kind of library up there that they can yank from too, right? Okay, yeah, it's time for Cleopatra again. Let's give them Cleopatra. So again, not a standard thought, but I do believe, if you think about it, this is hard. This is
Mm,
a hard gig. Being here, losing people, going through grief, fighting fear, all of the stuff that we have to do in this life is tough.
mm,
If we were spending eternity just, going through it, learning, dying, coming back, going through it again, learning, eh, that's kind of a scary thought too. I don't know if I want to keep doing that forever and ever and ever and ever. I know it's like some of the Eastern religions have the concept of, you have something you have to learn. If you don't learn it, you come back and you keep repeating that same thing over and over and over and over. Again, we do that now, don't we? If
mm.
you're not learning what you're supposed to learn, keep beating your head against a wall, you keep doing that. So those concepts
We've done
kind
the
of
same
fit.
mistakes before.
Right, right.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Renee. It
Oh,
has
you're
been
welcome.
wonderful to talk with you and hear about your journey and some of your perspectives. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you again for your time.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Talk to you soon.